Today I'm joined by Karl Robertson, owner and managing director of HF Pest and Bird Control, which is a family-run business who provide professional prevention and pest control services. So,
hmm
hi Karl,
Hello.
how you doing? You
Okay.
okay?
Yeah, good. Thank you. How are you?
Yeah, very good. Thank you very much, Karl. So Karl, just tell us a little bit more about HF Pest and Bird Control.
Yeah, so HFS and Bird Control is a national supplier of pest and bird services. We specialize in the use of birds of prey. So my team, which operates across, predominantly the south of the country, but we cover nationwide, will go to locations like sports stadiums, town centres, hospitals, industrial units, things like that, to prevent pest birds such as seagulls and pigeons from becoming a health and safety nightmare for customers.
Okay.
We also deal with your bog standard rats, mice, all those rodents and bugs that people don't like to have either. So yeah, the main thing we try to do is alleviate customers' headaches.
Right. Okay. Thank you. And so how long have you been in business, Karl?
We've been in business since 2007. We're a family-run business. My father set it up following a long stint himself in the pest control industry. He's a big falconer at heart and saw a natural niche in the market, so set up on his own. I was due to go to university in 2007 to do teaching, and I went to a family meal, and it was a discussion and effectively U-turned the weekend before I was due to go. Um, Basically, on the basis of why was I going to university to earn 30 grand worth of debt to earn 18 grand a year at the time. So here we are, 20 years later. Approaching 20 years later, and yeah, still waiting for the riches I was promised on that family meal. But yeah, loving working in business.
Great. Okay. Excellent. It's amazing how the different paths that uh that life takes us. So had you before that had you considered joining the family business or even setting up a business of your own, Carl?
Absolutely not. I was I was definitely of that age group that I guess was of new labour, which was everyone should go to university. And I was definitely in that educational group that no matter what you did, that was the success point. You were classed as a success if you went to university. Looking back on it now, obviously it's complete rubbish. And I think I struggled for the first 7 years, but I think that's just in a mixture of when you're that age, you're learning life, who you are, and running a business at the same time. So there's a lot compacted. But when you start realizing what running your own business actually means, what it can bring you, and freedom you genuinely get compared to other people I see, yeah, I can't imagine doing anything else now.
It's certainly got its benefits running and owning your own business, and it can create an amazing life for you. Um, so what describe your current role in the business, because I introduced you as the owner and managing director. So as the managing director in the business, what are your main roles, your main tasks?
So I've appreciated since COVID, realistically, where I think COVID gave was bad and negative. It had negatives, it has positives. Given what but it gave me a chance to really step away and have a look at the whole picture.
Hmm.
Because we don't only run the pest control business, I've got a whole other business as well that's based on birds of prey here in Kent.
So is that
So
the is
look,
that the Willows
Willows,
Bird
yeah,
of Prey
Willows,
and Wildlife
that's
Trap?
it.
Yeah.
That's it, yeah. So that operates out of three locations now. So we've got our main location here, got a location over in Epsom, and I've got, we're in plans to open our third location early in 2025, just down the road. So yeah, that's all exciting. But it was stepping back, and I think COVID gave it real purpose and direction to go, well, actually, are we happy to just sit here and do what we do, or we're going to push and try and do something a little bit different within the industry? Pest control, pest control. So with the birds of prey, that was very, very simple. So what my role was there was getting myself off the tools, as it were, rather than doing the job. It was to train people to have the ability to do the job well. So putting training plans and having that infrastructure to support employees, which has taken a while. As I can imagine most business owners can appreciate, it's the biggest headache they will face, which is managing people. But it's very, very rewarding. And then the last 2 years has been improving our internal systems, which is service delivery, how we deliver from the moment the customer contacts us to the moment that the technician steps onto their property. And then now following that, we've just implemented a sales team, which I have headed up as well. So being a managing director, you wear many, many hats, but the best advice I've ever read, and I continue reading, keep saying, is finding people that are better at the job than me. And that's my role. And once I've embraced that, yeah, your business does move forward a hell of a lot quicker.
I love that phrase, by the way. Find people that are better at the job than you, because when you think about it, it's logical, isn't it? If you were employing a marketing person, why would you hire somebody that isn't as good as marketing as you? Or if you're hiring a salesperson, etc., you'd want somebody that was better at that role than you. So yeah, love that saying. And you mentioned there that initially you found that that difficult. How challenging did you find it from transitioning from and I think that using your term there, working on the tools to actually, focusing on the business? So that, we often use the phrase of working in the business and working on the business. How easy did you find that transition?
I think resistance is the word I'll use, because when you're an early business, you know you're earning money when you're physically doing the work. So that's very easy to quantify. When you step and work on the business, it's a gamble, and you've got to do it. In my opinion, you've got to have the right ideas and plan to be able to do that. You just go, I'm going to employ a load of people and hopefully I'll earn a load of money. Then I think you quickly find that doesn't work, because the bit I obviously self-taught myself, which obviously, there's a lot of help out there and things like that. But yeah, it's really understanding your numbers, really understanding what the costs are, and making those decisions. So, for example, bringing on 2 more admin staff within our business this year has been the best thing we've done, but it's due to the costs that go into the business that I've never had to run with. So it was hard at the start, but I think it's more of a unknown. And then once you start getting the information out of the head, then it all starts becoming a little bit easier. And yeah, learning to take a step at a time rather than trying to get to the end destination as well. That's the key.
And it's a great things that you mentioned there, Karl. You mentioned about having a plan. How important is it for you to have that plan when you're that plan for your business, whether it be short-term plans, long-term plans? How important is it for you?
I think it's very important, but the more important side of that is to be fluid. It's understanding that life isn't going to allow you to put everything the way you want it to. So the outline of a plan is great. And I think one of the big things I like talking to and getting involved in is with teenagers around 14 to 17. Because I look back on that stage in my life and I think it's a very, very important time that a lot of pressure is put forward to them. So if I remember my school days, that was when you had to choose, because society, I guess, before us, we never really had these options to grow and travel, and the world was much, much smaller. Now it's all much bigger. There's a lot more choice and there's a lot more thing. It's really important. Well, I don't know what I want to do. And I think if we flip that around, put it into the way I put, well, how do you want your life to look? How do you want to live? And then I guess it's putting choices, whether it's a job, a career, or running your own business, that's the vessel to do that, rather than working to live. You live to work, but live to work, yeah, whichever way that goes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But that was my key click when I realised what earning money could do for me, and I think it's what everyone gets kind of lost in. And I see it. You've got Instagram now, which got these wonderful lives that people live on Instagram and stuff like that. But if you put it in there, they still work very, very hard. These, a lot of these influencers very, very hard, and a lot of them fail. And I think that's the thing that I like supporting is, let's congratulate failure as much as we congratulate success, because obviously without failure we don't get the successes. And so that's how I look at it all. So when I transitioned to running your own business, that's the message I'd love to send out to youngsters. And it's that celebrating that doesn't matter what you choose, go out and do the best you can.
Yeah, no, great piece of advice, by the way. I like that, and yeah, I absolutely agree with what you said about planning. There, it's great to have a plan, but then you also added to that, but be flexible, because life happens, and the assumptions you've made in your plan may or may not materialize. I always refer to the military with this. They always have a plan, but they don't know what's going to happen when they go into conflict, how the enemy's going to react, and they have to be flexible and adaptable to adapt that plan at any particular time to the circumstances they're in. You can relate that to sport. The top sports teams, they've always got a plan in terms of how they're going to win the game, but it may not work out like that depending on how the opposition play.
And I think you're absolutely right. But maybe plan is the wrong word we're using. Maybe if you relate it to the army, it's that philosophy. You buy into the direction that you're heading in. So you have a plan, but let's just say, like, you go for a sports team, your top performing player contracts an injury just before your big game. So you have to then adapt. But because the team is bought into the philosophy of where they're going and they're unbeatable, or whatever you want to put it as, that's more, I guess, of what it's all about. And that's kind of my thinking. It's like, you have to have the destination in your mind, and then as long as you're really strong into where that destination is, you're going to get hit. You just keep going. You're going to have a road closure, for example. You're driving on, and it's all these types of things, analogies, when you read these. And one of my favorite ones is I recently read Arnold Schwarzenegger's and autobiography, and reading his, and he says he has a plan, and plan A, and what he tells everyone who has plan B, well, he goes, well, you're an idiot, because if plan A is not strong, then why do you need a plan B? And I love that thought process. It's just like, what he means by it is, don't be deterred. Don't accept that you're going to fail. Accept that there's going to be failures, but don't accept that you're going to fail. And that's the bit I really, really like. And mentally, that as a business owner, it's what you kind of hang on to, I guess.
Yeah, that's really powerful. And that reminds me of, and I'm probably misquoting this, but I don't know whether it was the Vikings or something like this, but when they used to invade like a country, they used to, once they landed on the shore, they used to burn their boats.
Yeah.
And that was basically saying, we can't go backwards. We can't. All we can do now is go forwards. And it's similar to what you were saying. That's their plan A, right, to go forwards. What happens and how they're going to get there, they may have to adapt and be flexible, but it's always to the same destination, to the same end. So yeah, great analogy. The the other thing you mentioned there as well that I picked up is understanding your numbers. How, as a business owner, how key is it to understand the numbers in your business?
It's probably you maybe do this quite a bit, and it's maybe the point that comes up the most, but it's probably the biggest failure of our educational system, that we don't understand just three numbers, I guess: profit, turnover, and then obviously that number in between, that between profit and turnover, and cost, I guess. So for me, when it's good, I guess 10 years ago, I can relate. 10 years ago, when it's good, you think everything's great, money's coming in, but then the money coming in is bigger than the money going out, so you don't have any problems. You don't really think about it. You just keep selling the way you're selling. Don't you have a small number of staff because you know that X amount is X. But when you start wanting to grow, and especially when you start adding, like I said earlier, you're adding an admin team in as well, it's really, really important that business owners really understand what they're spending per hour, so they're able to quantify that to their customers. And I think I fell into that trap of, the way to get more work is to charge less. And then that's a slippery road, because then you realize you're actually working for free when you actually sit down and do it. But yeah, it's the one thing I would say with business owners, even if, whether you take coaching or there's enough content out on YouTube, there's good accountants out there that sit and do it. It's the bit that you really have got to put the most effort in to learn. And it's not a skill you get picked up from school. If you've worked at other businesses, you may have more of an idea of it, but especially if it's your first time and you're taking that big leap, it's the one skill I think is the most important, and then followed up by the next skill is learn how to sell. And I think everyone puts themselves down when it comes to selling, because it's they see the sleazy salesman, and my approach to it is, there's so many approaches, and there's so many different types of salespeople, sorry. My approach is to put me in a room and I can speak honestly, which means that's the easiest way to sell. I'm not going to overpromise or anything like that. So those are the two things. But yeah, knowing your numbers makes it easier to sell as well.
Yeah. Look, I agree with you, and I think I always say that knowing the numbers helps you to make informed decisions.
Yeah.
If you're making decisions without knowing the numbers, you might be gambling or guessing. Can I afford to invest this money in marketing? Can I afford to invest in getting another employee or whatever it may be? And how profitable is my business, and those sort of things. Whereas if you know the numbers, you can make those informed decisions. And they're more likely then to be the right ones. So and I always also think that the numbers are the scorecard of business. Business, I look at business as a game. It's like playing a very strategic game, and the numbers are the scorecard.
Yeah.
The numbers are telling you how you're performing within that game. It's the scorecard of the game. And then you mentioned there's selling, Carl, and like we're all salespeople. Anybody that's in business is a salesperson. And I think selling has got a very negative connotation. When we think of a salesperson, our mind often goes back to, somebody that knocks on your door.
Your PVC salesman from the 80s.
Yeah, absolutely.
Your stockbrokers, for example. These type of things that we've portrayed in modern media, I guess, but actually is a bit disingenuous. I mean, I suppose back in the 80s, obviously, it was a different sales world, because, like you said, you were more in people's faces. Cold calling was a much larger thing, and obviously cold calling is now transferred to your telephone.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're exactly right. I think that stigma still sticks around in people's heads.
Yeah, and I think the best description of a salesperson that I heard, that I think is great, is professionally helping people to buy.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really great perception of a salesperson and what salespeople do, professionally helping somebody to buy. And it's key, absolutely key in all businesses, because you can be a great business coach, you can be a great sort of in pest control, electrician, plumber, hairdresser, whatever, but if you're not good at sales, you're not going to get the business.
One of the biggest mistakes I ever made, I think, was exactly that, was trying to separate marketing and sales when
Mm,
they have to align,
yeah.
because exactly goes back to knowing your numbers. If you're investing in marketing, then your sales should increase. However, the mistake I made was I need a big fancy website, so I'm going to spend all my money putting in a big fancy website. So if no one picks up the phone and calls, it doesn't make any difference. So the next time I got to go at it, I spent £500 on the website, and that £500 website is still there, because effectively, unless you're a big fancy shop, I guess there's no, I see all these, I guess when your brand increases, then it's something you could look at. But at the end of the day, all the customer wants is, especially in pest control, I've got a pest problem. Where's the number to call someone? And I think, like you said, in that sales, I'm putting marketing aside. Well, what are you marketing? And I think that's the question. Again, we never really are. As a business, now, if you're a plumber, you don't need a fancy website. You need someone to pick the phone up and call you. So how do you get that phone number into the right places? And if people start thinking about marketing like that, I think they can make, like you said, more informed decisions. They can then make, and it's this wheel, isn't it, that all turns around. But it's three parts: sales, operations, and finance. But the most important to get up and running, in my eyes, is finance. Once you know your finance, you can then put the right operation in place, and then the sales should follow from that, which is kind
Yeah.
of what I've done. Some people go the other way. If you're a salesperson, you go out and sell it first and then try and deliver. I feel it's a dangerous game, because if you haven't got the infrastructure to deliver it, then the customer will find out very, very quickly. But yeah, that for me is those three pillars, as it were. Put those in place nice and strong. Don't complicate it. Make it as simple as possible for your business, and then move it forward.
That's look, you're absolutely right. I think, when sometimes when businesses go into marketing, they forget the very first key principle, which is, who is the target market?
Mm-hmm.
Because when you start thinking about the target market, who they are, then you can start thinking about, well, what's the best way to engage with that target market? Is it, depending on what that target market is it social media? Is it through your website? Is it through networking? Is it through calling people? Is it through emails? But
It's all part of it, isn't it? Yeah.
yeah, until you've worked out that target market, I'll give an example. If my target market was children or young adults under the age of, I don't know, 20, well, there'd be no point me being on Facebook, because nobody under the age of 20, probably 25, is on Facebook. They're
No.
on, TikTok.
Snapchat, or Instagram.
Yeah, exactly. So it's worth saying, right, first question, who is my target market? Second question, what's the best way of reaching that target market? So
It's simple questions like that, which obviously I think it's complicated, because people, like you said, see sales, see marketing, and they see, I guess, what the mainstream media puts it as, and these films, and it's like this. You've got to be, big marketing executives and all this sort of stuff in movies. And actually, if you face it, marketing is the whole picture. Selling is easy. What am I selling? But marketing is exactly like you said. Well, how do I reach the people that I want to sell to?
yeah,
And I guess the inclusion of social media in the last 20 years, it's become a very, very interesting place, because the way in which we receive our media and our news and our things are very, very different. I'm still old enough to remember the Yellow Pages, for example, and that was, as a tradesperson, that was the book to be in. That's the one that's going in. But why was that? Because Yellow Pages put themselves out. It's that whole type of thing. So yeah, no, I not only do I like being involved in my own business, I love talking to other businesses and their journeys and how they face it, and things like that. So
yeah, it's likewise. Hence why I sort of love doing these sort of business spotlight interviews. So what's the biggest challenge facing your business right now, or in your business right now, Karl?
biggest challenge. So pest control is a very good place to be in at the moment. It's a very buoyant market. So in the last 5 years, there's been quite a few private equity funds entering into the market, and that's obviously then created more bigger companies, which is great opportunity for us. The negative side of that is because the market is buoyant, means that we're actually losing a hell of a lot of experience at the top end. Now, pest control is a market that you don't necessarily go and leave school and go, I'm going to be a pest controller. It's normally a second or third career, and that's what they settle on. The great thing about pest control is what I've seen. Once you're in pest control, you don't really leave it because it's the bug that you get, pardon the pun, but yeah, this problem solving attitude that you have. And it's a very nice, easy market to be in, but we're losing that. So the biggest problem I see that pest control faces is recruitment in the future. And we've already seen this year, because the first wave has gone, that the wages, like other industries, have basically been brought up into line, which is great. But it's going to continue to do that because we're going to lose more and more experience. So we need more reach into that way to bring people into the pest control market that way. On the bird of prey side, it's always going to be animal welfare. We operate a zoo license, so the zoo license regulations are changing again. So it's to maintain that we have high animal welfare, and that's the forefront of what we do. So yeah, I think recruitment on the pest control side is probably the biggest challenge we face. There's nothing really, in COVID, it still operated because we could. We were staffed with key workers. And since that, what's happened is those lovely buildings in London have all sat empty. And when the people started returning, but the pests are still there, but they've been left alone, the rodent issues specifically across London and the southeast have obviously increased. And we've got different regulations that control what we do. So 30 years ago, we'd turn up, rat man, as it were, and you'd just chuck a bag of bait, and that would be the problem. And we come back in 7 days, do it again. But the way in which we do that is better now. However, for the last 30 years, we've educated customers that was the best way to solve the problem. But now we're having to re-educate customers because legislation has changed and gone, well, actually, we need to do this. You need to be better. Mice and rats are, like rats particularly neophobic, so we have that fear of new objects. So there's little challenges, but yeah, it's recruitment, and everything I've just said is experience. So it's having that experience coming through to provide a good service. And at the moment, as I said, it's a second or third career, so you're finding people around mid-30s upwards, whereas realistically, if we really want to move the industry forward, we need the younger minds coming in, like you said, who are on the Facebook, or not on Facebook, on Instagram, social media, bringing that new technology into it as well, which can implement it better. Because if we don't, we're going to, I feel there's going to be a vacuum of experience, basically.
Yeah. Okay. No, thank you. Look, thank you for sharing that. And no, you briefly mentioned this sort of earlier, but there's one question that I always like to ask everybody that comes onto this business spotlight interview. And that is, what advice would you give to an 18-year-old you? So you mentioned earlier about what advice, you would give to, to 14 to 17-year-olds when you speak to them. But if you could go back in time and give the 18-year-old you a bit of advice, what would it be?
Cool. Been thinking about this one. I think it's one of those ones you think about all the time.
Yeah.
I'd put it in a different story and then bring on to the advice. So basically, my big thing is let's support everyone. So basically what that means is I'd go back and I'd support and just say, look, if you want to be, I'm going to use a cleaner because obviously people look down on that profession in my mind. So there's nothing wrong with it because it's stable. Everyone needs them. And you're always going to get yourself a paycheck. So go out and live, stop worrying about everything. But the main thing is no matter what you choose to do, go and be the best at it. So to finish on that, I would give my 18-year-old self the advice of, you're going to university, go and better yourself to open up the door. Now, obviously, back then I was in my mind in teaching, but realistically, um, I love being an entrepreneur as it is now. And I would give my 18-year-old self and say, no, jack that all again and go start your own business, because you build your own freedom. To finish on that though, I would have loved to have got a bit of experience in working myself. So maybe, yeah, the 18-year-old self would get told, go get some experience and then go start your own business. Don't, I wouldn't advise anyone doing it off the cuff, learning as they go along. But yeah, it's been a hell of a ride. So it's hard to say that I'd change anything.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's not so much sort of change anything, but whether what you'd sort of say to yourself to with that knowledge that you know now. But look, thank you for sharing that, and that's really powerful. Thank you very much, Carl. So Carl, look, I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me today and sharing more about your business and also your journey. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me.